Hello and welcome to Agents of Nonprofit. My name is Alexander Lapa, and I'm here to speak with everyday superheroes helping nonprofits. Joining me today is Nichole Montoya to talk about starting a company and starting a very particular company about payments. Nichole, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here.
My favorite first question to ask is, what is your superhero origin story? That is to say, how did you get started working with nonprofits or in the field of nonprofits?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background post college was management consultant, being management consulting, and I worked for companies like Accenture and KPMG. And I happened to be consulting for a financial technology company at the time. And I had two young daughters, one who I believe had just entered like kindergarten, elementary school. And I found myself, I was really busy. I was a working mom, as so many people are. And I was writing a lot of checks and filling out a lot of forms and driving them across town or putting them in my kid's backpack. And it just struck me as super inefficient and kind of a waste of time. And I was thinking about how I thought it was sort of a nuisance. And I could only imagine what it was like for the person on the other end receiving all this paper. And that was sort of an aha moment, I guess you'd say. And so, let that percolate. My mind was already on fintech because I was doing some consulting. And then also sort of realized that, whenever a situation arose where it involved collecting kind of money from a group, I would kind of instinctually not raise my hand to do so because there's some sort of awkwardness associated with that. Are people going to actually contribute? Or are they just going to say they're going to contribute? So sort of those two kind of ahas combined that made me realize or really feel strongly that the world kind of needed a group-oriented tool that was very payment forward. So sort of like an Evite that was really user-friendly, but was really focused on collecting payments. And then as we studied, as I sort of focused on that problem, I was like, well, this is really groups and what are the special needs of groups? And really realized it was the ability to collect both payments and information from groups in a really simple way. So that was kind of the aha moment. And then I just, set out to build it. I pulled in a really good friend, asked her if she wanted to be my co-founder, and just sort of started army crawling my way through, like, how do I build this? Because I wasn't a technical person necessarily. And then we just started finding people to help us and started kind of fumbling our way through it.
There's nothing wrong with fumbling your way through it. No one expects anybody to be an expert on day one, right? Even things that I do on the first day are never perfect. You just kind of start, and then the expression that I like to use is you build the airplane as you're flying it. The key element is always starting it. And then you figure out, where to go, how to go, what you should use, what you shouldn't use along the way, learn from other people as much as you can. But the key element is just starting. And then from there, make it work.
Yeah. And that's what we did. Of course, I did a fair amount of research, figure out if maybe some tools existed that I didn't know about, what was out there in the market, what would it take to build it, who needs it, who could be our first users, how the heck am I going to afford this? Like all those things, right? That you just sort of start chipping away at and then jump in with both feet. And that's kind of what we did. And yeah, we've learned it's, I joke sometimes that I've altered my DNA from this adventure. And it's just because I've learned so much and I've grown so much. And so it's been quite a journey.
It's a really good point. I should caveat, you shouldn't just start for the sake of starting. You should maybe do a bit of market research, make sure there's a need for it, a demand before you start. But the idea is don't think that you're going to start and be perfect on day one. Perfection comes, if ever, over a long period of time. You have to iterate to get there, not just expect to start only when you know you're going to be perfect. That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, no, and you're so right. I would have never started if I was worried about being perfect because I really didn't know how to build a fintech company like this. And I just was, kind of naive. And that was good, I think, in a lot of cases for entrepreneurs to be slightly naive in that I thought I could figure it out. And turns out I did.
Awesome. Well, I want to get into the details of the company, but before we do that, the precursor to that is just the whole concept of starting a company as a mother, two daughters. There must be some challenges on how to get going on that. I'm curious to know if we could learn a bit more about your process of not only seeing the need for this payment, collecting payments from groups, but also having the courage to do it while having a family. What are some of the challenges, basically, when starting this kind of company with a family?
Gosh, there are so many. And I feel like that's been a journey in and of itself for me personally. When I started Cheddar Up, my girls were younger, I think maybe kindergarten and pre-kindergarten. And now, for context, actually makes me feel really old. My daughter is in I just sent her off as a freshman in college. So it's been a while and they have watched me build this thing from the ground up. And so I would say I had a lot of, I think some of this, how you feel about this is perhaps generational too. Like my kids, I think, are going to feel totally different about, going off to start a company if they ever choose to do so. But I had a lot of guilt at first. I was kind of staring straight into a window of what it was going to take to build this tech company. I knew as I was realizing I needed to be in where I'm in Denver and that's my home. And as I was realizing I'm going to have to spend some time in San Francisco for weeks at a time, um, there was a real conscious decision of like, I am going to miss some things as it relates to my kids. And I'm a pretty, really kind of hyper involved mom, or at least I try to be in their lives. So it was, there were some decisions that had to be made. I guess I did trust, I some sort of subconsciously realized that like there was going to be some silver lining in this for my kids, for them to see me go do this thing that they would perhaps benefit from at some point in their life. And I feel like I'm already seeing the benefit of that. So that's nice. But hindsight is, 2020. But at the time it was hard. I was making some sacrifices as it related to spending time with them. I wasn't necessarily able to kind of be the classroom mom. There are a lot of things over the years that I've just had to say no to. And honestly, that's worked to my advantage sometimes because I just have to be really clear on what are my priorities. And running a company, starting a company, it takes a lot out of you. So my priorities, I had a really short list. Let's say they were my kids, my work, and my husband. And sometimes I could hang out with friends, but I had to say no to a lot. So for me, it took a while to figure out how to manage, and I did. Not gonna lie, I struggled with some mommy guilt, let's say, for a while. But having a support system around me helped a lot. People in my community, my spouse, who could pick up the slack during the times when I was, around less. But, I think it also kind of helped me to pull them in on the journey, I remember in the early days of Cheddar Up, one of the first things we did was we went to some sort of like a school neighborhood summer fair. And we had a big booth. We were sort of introducing this to the community, the local community, to get feedback. And my kids were right there involved. They were wearing little Cheddar Up t-shirts. They were bouncing these big giant orange balloon bouncy ball things. The platform that we operate often serves schools and other nonprofits. And it was a setting that made sense to have kids around. But I guess it's kind of also helpful to pull them into what I was doing so that they understood it a little bit more. So if I was gone, they understood why. But, I'm being a little long-winded, Alex, but I will also say that, over the years, it's gotten a lot easier. I think because I'm just more comfortable with how to parse my time out. I also have more control over my time than I maybe did in the earlier stages when I was raising capital or what have you. And now I can choose. Now, running your own company has a lot of upsides, which is, hey, I'm not going to take that call at 3:30 and because I've got a soccer game to go to. And so there's a lot of control around that too. I also learned early on that if I was going to build this, I needed to make sure that the people in my world could support me and wouldn't, judge me, for example, for being away. I do remember kind of parting ways with some friends who I could tell were like, "You're going to do what? You're going to be gone for how long?" And I was like, I knew that like, okay, I can't hang around that vibe because that's just not going to serve me or this cause. So anyway, those are some things that just kind of relate to my point of view as it relates to trying to start a company while also being a mom.
It sounds like one of the key elements is motivation, the drive to keep you going through all these challenges, all these ups and downs, believing in the mission, in the focus, and despite having that sense of guilt, you just keep going because you it's like a cause that's greater than yourself, right? You have this mission that's outside of yourself. You're just helping accomplish it, and I think that's one way to help you get through that those downs. And it's sad. I'm sorry to hear about the friendship thing. I've seen that before too, where friends are with you for a certain period of time because they're aligned with where you are and where you want to be. And then when you have different goals or you start maybe refining some of your goals, you might lose them along the way. I've had the same thing, so I can totally relate to that. It sucks, but um, you need to be surrounded by people that support you, that lift you up, that promote you, that are optimistic about you, who are also successful. Um, there's a study that says that show me the five closest people to who you are, and I can show you who you are. And that those
Hmm.
people, those five closest people, are the most influential in your life. It includes your family as well, but your close friends. And if your friends are all, unmotivated, sit on the couch kind of people watching Netflix every day and drinking alcohol, versus ones who are go-getters or in any capacity that works, you will be influenced heavily by them. So pick your five closest friends very carefully.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that the truth? I believe that. That makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, yeah. No, and I like your point about motivation and passion and conviction. And life is not always a cakewalk, and sometimes it takes some grunt work to get somewhere better. So that's sort of how I saw it at the time.
I'm curious about, because your time is split, right? You've got family, you've got friends, you've got your personal time, and you've got business. A lot of attention or a lot of focus is usually says, well, you can't do it all. And if you have too many things on your plate, you're going to drop something eventually. And my question to you is the opposite. Are there any advantages that you can see, for you at least, where because your time is more fractional, that there is a benefit to being fractional?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a good question because, especially from the mother's point of view, because there's a lot of schools of thought around, do you work? Do you not work? How do you make it? What are you giving up? Is it worth it? And there are certainly times where I'm like, wow, I wish I wasn't doing this. Like, wow, that looks nice to be able to, do whatever, whenever. Not very often, honestly, but I think that one of the key benefits is just that I get to be different things, right? Like I get to be a mom, and I get to be someone in the workforce. I get to be someone who gets to work with an amazing team, and that's so amazing. Like that is just such a gift to me to be able to be different things, right? I get to be a spouse, I get to be a daughter, I get to be a mom, and I can kind of go to different worlds at different times. I get to go to work and I can be completely engaged and the day can zip by. And that is such a gift. But yet I know when I can kind of step out to go be present with my kids. You figure out when they want to talk to you, when they don't want to talk to you. So I think just the ability to have, it's really enriched my life to be able to be different things at, at different times. And, it's funny. I don't know, like it also just like it sort of becomes part of your persona, or at least, being the CEO of Cheddar Up is definitely part of my persona, at least at this season in my life. Um, but it also, I don't know, it's just people understand, right? Like I may not be able to be the team mom. And no one necessarily expects me to, because I get a pass, I guess. I don't know if that's an upside or not, but I do get a pass a lot of times when it's like, okay, Nicole's probably not the person to tap for being the team mom, because she's doing a bunch of other stuff. But it's also another benefit of it, and I can I'm seeing this right now. As I have two girls. One is a junior in high school. One is a freshman in college, and she just went off, and it's been really hard, and it's a huge transition for pretty much all parents. And I'm telling you, if I didn't have my work, which I'm just so enthralled in, it would probably be a bit of a tougher transition. So I think I do have a good sense of identity as it relates to kind of things outside of being a mother, which is helpful during big transition points. So those are a few things, but I think it's a great question, because it is this thing, this conversation of like, how do you balance it? Can you balance it? It's so hard. That's true. It is not easy. But there is a lot of upside to it.
I like the idea of you get to be more than one thing because, in a sense, you don't get bored. And what I mean by that is instead of being one person all the time, 24 hours, and doing one activity, you have the ability to spice up your life, so to speak, by being different kinds of people, different facets of your personality. And the shifting between them actually makes life a bit more interesting. So I like that perspective.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does make things a bit more fulfilling. I've got something on my own, so to speak, it seems like.
When I asked you that question as well, the thing that popped into my head is um, one advantage of having your time fractured is you find ways to do things faster because you don't have a lot of time to do something. You will find ways to automate it or outsource it or not do it or
That
avoid it.
is
Or the
so
idea is that
true.
yeah, you can find ways to systematize things so that you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. You become more efficient in effect.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. We hire a lot of moms at Cheddar Up, and it's because they're just total rock stars for that reason. They are used to multitasking and they're efficient, and those are some values that are, really, really valued here at Cheddar Up.
There's an expression that says, if you want something done, give it to a busy person because they will find ways to do it really fast so they can get on to what they need to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Last question before we get to the actual company itself of Cheddar Up. I'm curious to know if you have any advice for people who are who were in your position X years ago, you're kind of motivated to start a company but hesitant for various reasons, maybe because of the same kind of situation that you were in the past. Any words of wisdom or motivation that you can give to someone like that?
Yeah, I would, vet your idea and start. I mean, sort of alludes to what we mentioned earlier, but ideas are not to be, you know, like harsh, but ideas are a dime a dozen. What makes what makes it great is that when you execute. So start, even if early on you get signs that like, oh wow, this is not a good idea, or someone else, there's too many people in the market, or this isn't enjoyable. I hate this, it turns out. Like that's fine, but at least start. Because you'll learn. And the whole like failure is success is it's totally true. But there are a lot of reasons, to talk yourself out of it. But if you're convicted in it, just start.
Awesome. Let's talk about the company itself then. So the name is Cheddar Up, like cheddar cheese and the word
Mhm.
up. And I'm curious to know, how did you come up with the name like that? Like, where did that come from?
I know it's really funny, huh? So the name does the name is slang. Cheddar is slang for money. There's lots of slang, funny words for money out there, but cheddar is one of them. And then the idea of cheddaring up is sort of this concept of kind of paying up, contributing, and it's meant to be kind of fun and whimsy. But the origin story behind it is, my co-founder Molly and I were thinking for truly weeks about the name. We're like, okay, what do we call it? And that's honestly the fun part of starting a company, right? What's the name? What's the URL? Can we trademark it? Which is actually both of those last two things are difficult to do these days. Um, and we were having fun, and we were honestly getting really fatigued. Like, good gosh, we cannot come up with a name for this. Everything's taken, or it's not a good name. And of course, frustratingly, somewhat, my husband thought of the name Cheddar Up. And I remember one day coming home from my consulting gig, which I was still doing at the time, and he was like, I thought of a name. I was like, okay, what? He's like, Cheddar Up. And I looked at him like he was an alien. I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't know the reference cheddar as it related to money. He's like, cheddar, it stands for money, Cheddar Up. And I was like, no, that's silly. That makes no sense. I don't even know what you're talking about. So then he's like, well, let's ask Ruben, who's my nephew at the time in his 20s, working downtown Denver. It's like, let's call Ruben and see what he thinks, because he's a younger person, right? So we call him up, put him on speaker, and we're like, Ruben, if I say cheddar, what does cheddar mean? And the first thing out of his mouth was money. And I was dumbfounded. I was like, wow, I am so not cool. And I just learned something. And anyway, the more we thought about it, and we liked it because it was sort of kind of demographic agnostic, so to speak. It was kind of be fun and whimsy to older people. It could kind of be cool and hip to younger people. And the URL was available, and we could trademark it. So we went with it. And then my co-founder, designed a beautiful kind of flying cheese cube logo that made it even more whimsy, and the rest is history.
Love it. Love that story. And it is a great name. It is whimsical. I'm curious to
Thanks.
know, like, because you mentioned it a bit. So it's collecting payments for groups. Like, what was the core problem you were trying to solve? And the solution was collecting payments. But what was the problem that you needed to solve, or you felt the need to solve?
Yeah, I mean, it was really just going from paper to online for the most part, and it was simplifying, you know, payments and forms for the key two parties involved. So for the payer, usually the community member, and then for the person, the organizer, the group organizer. So it was just sort of understanding the pain of collecting payments and informations on both sides of the equation, and wanting to make things more efficient in these settings. So Cheddar Up, as you said, we help groups and nonprofits easily collect payments and information. And we, in the process, we help them collect more, we make them more efficient. But the groups and the nonprofits we serve, we sometimes refer to them, as kind of the junior varsity collectors of the world, right? JV team's amazing. No harm with the JV team. But so you've got person to person payments, and the Venmos, the Zells of the world. You're just paying back your friend, you're paying the tutor or the dog sitter or what have you. And then you've got sort of the PayPals and the Squares of the world, or the QuickBooks of the world, which are really focused on sort of small to medium businesses. They've got really predictable collecting needs that are, you've got someone within a certain role. Their job is to learn that tool and get really good at it. And then you've got these kind of groups and nonprofits. We're talking about schools, booster clubs, teams, Girl Scout troops, HOAs, where they are group organizers, usually volunteers, heroes within their community who raise their hand to be in charge. And they are organizing stuff. And it's usually short term, so to speak, right? Like they raise their hand, they do it for a year, maybe 2 years if you're lucky. Then they have to hand the reins off to someone else. And these people who are raising their hand, they might be technically savvy, they may not be technically savvy. So we just really, felt strongly that they needed something different, right? They needed something that was easy to use, not intimidating, something that was really flexible. If you think about all those groups that I just named a second ago, they all are doing different things, right? They're collecting for cookies, or, spiritware, or registration, or after school enrichment. That's a lot of different stuff. So to create one platform that was flexible enough to do all those different things was something that, do all those different things well, was something we didn't see out there either. So, yeah, so that kind of, I went off on a tangent a bit, but, just some things that make who we serve different, and how we kind of go about creating a platform to serve them. But really just creating efficiency, helping them collect more, creating a tool that was built with them in mind.
Can you give a very precise use case, like not a use case, but like a process? How does it work from signing up to distributing a link so people can make contributions, knowing when everyone has contributed? Like, how does that look like from a user's perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's use a school, for example. We're kind of still in back to school season, especially on the East Coast. Um, let's say you're running your PTA, right? Let's say you're the treasurer, and your PTA either doesn't like the tool they're using now, or they're not online yet and they want to move online. So they hear about Cheddar Up, they go to cheddarup.com, they create an account, name, email, password, um, and they start creating what we call a collection page. So let's say if I'm a PTA, I might need to collect for the fall festival, which is kind of an event. I might want to create some sort of collection for the annual giving campaign, just optional donations. And I might, be helping to sell spiritware, t-shirts, and different branded clothing. Those are three examples that a PTA might need to collect money, let's say in the fall. So what they would do is they'd go to cheddarup.com and they'd create what we call a collection, which is a collection page. So they create this collection with a really user-friendly kind of collection page builder, which is our software. And they just start adding items. So let's say they're collecting for the fall festival. They would add an item for the fall festival kind of admission fee. Say it's $10. They might want to sell some tickets. So then you can buy a book of tickets. That might be another item. They might want to ask questions related to the item, like, who's coming? Do you want to buy a meal? Do you have any allergies? All those kinds of things. So they're kind of building their page by adding items, adding questions. They might have a waiver. Maybe there's some nifty ride at the fall festival and they want them to sign a waiver in case anyone gets hurt. They could add a form or a waiver to that same page. And they can preview that page the whole time as they're adding items. They click preview and they see their page being built in real time. And then they can add settings to their page. Maybe they want to allow a couple different payment methods. Maybe they want to customize the email receipt that people get after they pay. Maybe they want to change, maybe they want to add some sort of, I don't know, access setting or put their page behind a password. We've got all types of settings for their pages. Then they're done. Then they click on the share step of that builder. They copy that URL for their page. They can customize the URL. And now they have a beautiful page that they've created in minutes that's going to allow them to collect payments online for that fall festival. And they can put that link wherever. They can share it on their school Facebook page, put it on a flyer. They can put it in, email newsletters. So it allows this PTA to become a really great marketer of this amazing fall festival that they're having. And it allows them to collect money in advance, right? So instead of, hey, children, take this form home, turn it back in, bring it in with a check, money starts rolling in as soon as they share that link. So whoever's planning that fall festival, they have reporting of, who signed up, what information they filled out. They can view all that information online. They can download it to spreadsheets. And then whenever they're ready, they connect their bank account and they can withdraw those collected funds to a connected bank account. So it actually ends up being much more secure than someone, walking around with a bag of money and a bag of checks with people's bank accounts information on it. So a lot more secure, a lot more control. We find that, again, we're using the example of a PTA school. They collect a lot more money because, I never know where my checkbook is. Half the time my kids don't give me a form if they've got it, or I get it late. So you're just since I'm probably being hit on a number of different channels from the PTA, like I'm going to see it somehow. I'm going to click the link and I'm going to pay online, whether it's at my desk or whether it's on the go from my cell phone. So yeah, that may have been a little bit more laborious than you wanted, but the whole idea is creating the pages super simple. And so any typical PTA will have a bunch of different pages that they'll be sharing. We also have something called a group page that allows an organization to kind of aggregate all of their pages onto one kind of one-stop shop. Lots of bells and whistles. But we want that to be easy for them to create the page, easy for them to promote whatever it is they have going on. And then the friction-free paying for the payer is actually super important, right? I'm a PTA. I'm sharing this with hundreds of families. I want them to be able to click that link, add items to their cart, and pay. So they can always do that without creating an account. The payers do not need to download an app, which we find is pretty important in a group setting because, you don't want to have to be like, oh, shoot, I don't have that app. Now I got to go download another app and figure out how to use it and remember my login credentials. So it's nice that we always have sort of a guest checkout option on Cheddar Up. So friction-free paying for the community. And then again, all the reporting any organizer would ever want, in real time as they're working on whatever it is they're working on. And we have a lot of people who use Cheddar Up stay on what we call our free plan. So, one of the things we always say is, use Cheddar Up for free. And people are like, how is it for free? Nothing's ever free, really, it seems. And so they can stay on our free plan, which I'll say about, 75% of PTAs, for example, stay on our free plan. But there are a couple premium plans where you can pay monthly or annually and get access to more features. And then by default, the processing fee is passed to the payer. So in that sense, if you stay on the free plan, you pass the fee on to the payer. The PTA is using it for free. So, but there's lots of ways to configure that stuff. So anyway, is that helpful? Can you visualize that, Alex?
I totally can. And the technical architect in me has like 15 questions as a result of it. So maybe we can rapid fire through them.
Sure.
You mentioned payment methods. So I imagine credit card, ACH, Google Pay, Apple Pay. Are those like the common ones? Or are there other ones that you do support?
Yeah, those are the common ones. I'm just repeating what you just said. Yeah, credit card, we call e-check, which is ACH debit. Google Pay, Apple Pay. We have something called Link, which is a Stripe payment method. It's like Stripe's kind of version of Shopify's Shop Pay. And then also actually cash check. So we do have a way for you to track offline payments. Obviously, we're not helping you get that physical check, but if someone hands you a check in the hallway or what have you, we have a way for you to record that, so that all of your tracking stays the same. So yep, those are the kind of core payment methods. Trying to think if I'm forgetting any, but I don't think I am.
To be PCI compliant, I imagine you're using some underlying technology like Stripe, I guess, for the actual credit card processing, or is it something you're doing yourself?
Yeah, that's exactly who we're using. We are layered on top of Stripe, which has been a great partner of ours for years. And yeah, we're PCI compliant sort of via them and on our own. They are, we never actually see or touch any of the financial information. It goes straight to Stripe, and we don't store any of it. So yeah, Stripe is our partner.
And Stripe has, I know, credit card processing fees. You mentioned the possibility of handing over those fees to the payer rather. And I mean, do you charge a surplus on those fees, or is it really? Well, I guess that's the
Yeah,
question. Do you
yeah.
charge your own fees on top of that?
We do a little bit. Our credit card processing fee is 3.59% plus 59 cents. So we make a little money on those credit card transactions. And then we make, if anybody's curious how we make money on credit card transactions. And then we make money on anybody who becomes a paid subscriber. But yeah, we do mark those up, but we try to keep those fees. I mean, I think PayPal's are like 3.49% or something like that. So we're just a little bit higher than PayPal, but you're getting like a boatload of software. Because Cheddar Up truly is a great deal of software that sits on top of payments. So it's not like you're just paying for payment processing. If you were just paying for payment processing, we'd have to, we really couldn't market up much. But we are a lot of software. You're creating beautiful pages that do all kinds of things, present, images of your items and all kinds of things, send receipts, that's layered on top of payments.
Oh, receipting too. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So those fees, though, you said the payer can pay them. Does that mean, for example, if the payer is normally supposed to pay, let's say $10, they can elect to pay, 14 something to cover all those fees? Is that how it would work?
That is how it would work. So by default, it is just like that. By default, it's 14 and some change if you decide to keep those fees passed to the payer. But different organizations do different things, and sometimes they do different things for different things. So you could say, hey, you know what? I don't want it passed to the payer. I want to absorb it. And maybe you'll just mark up your items a little bit so no one will know the wiser. You could also absorb the fees, but give the payer the option to cover the fees at checkout, which when people do that, about 75% of people do cover the fees. So that's a really interesting data point and sort of a nice, thing to consider. And then there's even ways to only absorb, I think, like the e-check fees too. So there's lots of ways to configure it. So what some people do is they'll pass the fees on for everything, and then they'll do like an annual giving campaign, and they'll absorb the fees in that regard because they're sort of feeling like, hey, they're just giving us an outright donation. I don't want to ask them to pay the fees, or they'll give them the option to pay the fees. So anyway, I'm being long-winded again, but lots of options around fees.
What about automation? For example, is there do you have any kind of workflows in the system where you can, like, someone can be notified, or an email can be sent out, or alerts, or some other if-then type situations within the platform?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what there would be. Like, think for a second.
Let's say, for example, you have a target, right? You want to raise X number of dollars. If once you reach that target, rather than me having to log into the system every day to see if I reach that target, I could set up a notification alert to say, when you reach it, send me an email.
Yeah. Well, we do have a lot of things set around goals for fundraising. But I think probably the best example of automation that we have is just all of our Zapier integrations. So you can, basically automate things behind the scenes if you want to, right? If you want, obviously we're sending receipts, and you can customize the receipt, but let's say you want to send a different type of email when someone registers to be a member of your booster club, and you've got, this email ready to go in MailChimp or Constant Contact. You could set up an integration to every time someone pays to send that payer, an email automatically out of MailChimp and any other platform. Maybe you want all your new members to be populated in a Google Sheet. That can all be done through Zapier and through the integrations that we've created. Probably the best example of automation. Another example of automation, sort of, would be just the ability to add timing around your page. So let's use an after-school enrichment program, for example. this is one where, a lot of classes sell out really quickly. And so you can kind of put your page, or even like a spiritware sale or something. You could put your page behind a password or behind a start time and an end time. And if anyone arrives early, they'd see like a countdown clock. And then it would close at a certain time too. So there's some cool functionality related to automation around that as well.
What about integrations to CRMs? Because I imagine that some of this information, at least the contact information and the fact that the person made a donation of X dollars, would be useful to a CRM. Would you typically refer them to a Zapier to integrate to a CRM, or do you have any native integrations?
Yeah, we would. Well, I mean, we've got sort of templates set up within Zapier for some of the more popular CRMs. So I would refer you to Zapier, but we've got like sort of the key actions for like a Salesforce, for example, set up and ready to go. So if you're kind of familiar with doing an integration, the if then thing, it should be pretty simple to set up. I can do it. That's, I'm not wildly technical.
What about mobile apps? You mentioned that you don't want to have the payer or have a mobile app, which I totally get and appreciate. What about the person who's setting up the treasurer in this example? Do they have access to a mobile app, or is it really only web based?
They do. We have really beautiful native iOS and Android mobile apps. And just like you said, those are made for the organizer. And they can do a lot of different things on that. They can create collection pages, they can manage collection pages, they can withdraw money. They can also accept point of sale payments. So we have Bluetooth card readers that allow people to tap, dip, or swipe. And there's a whole point of sale flow built into our mobile apps, which is really cool. So let's use the old fall festival example again. If you do the fall festival, you're promoting it a month ahead of time, you're collecting money online. Then the evening of that fall festival, people, show up to your table. Maybe they haven't bought tickets yet. You can collect money on that very same collection page that you created, but take point of sale payments. So the nice thing about that is all the tracking and all the funds are staying in the same spot. And we're also releasing a feature, a ticketing feature. It's extremely robust. Probably in the next month, we'll be taking that to production, and you will have a ticket taking functionality in the mobile apps as well.
That's actually a really cool benefit, the POS. I wasn't expecting that one. It wasn't on my list of questions, but I'm happy you threw it in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, one of the big concerns about credit card payments in general is fraud. I even have a website for another business of mine where we have an e-commerce website. And not so long ago, we were hacked in that people were either creating fake accounts and or trying to test credit card numbers in mass. I know Stripe has a certain layer of fraud prevention, but I'm curious to know if there's anything you guys add on top of that, or any kinds of CAPTCHAs or any kind of authentication that you add to make this whole process a little more secure.
Yeah. Fraud is a big deal in our space. We are a payment company at the end of the day, and we do so many things, it would be hard to list them all, is the short answer. But we do leverage some tools that Stripe has. We do CAPTCHA validations. We have a lot of kind of AI that we've built on our own that detects fraud. We manually review pretty much every new user on the platform when they're taking money off of our platform. We use a special identity verification tool where folks, take a selfie and upload their ID. So there is a lot that we're doing, because just like you said, it's only getting more sophisticated. So it's something, we've got, multiple team members who are only focused on that in addition to engineers. So it's, it's sort of nonstop. But we've got a lot, we're pretty locked down, and we do a really good job, but it's not like it's, you're never done. You're never done when it comes to fraud management.
Yeah, info security is such an important topic these days. So you always try to stay one step ahead of these damn hackers.
That's right. That is exactly right.
So those are the end of my rapid fire type questions. I'm curious if you could share maybe a customer story, a customer success story. Somewhere in that or organization that was struggling with X, that you came in or that they started using your app, and you can use them as a proof of one of the benefits of using your app, your platform.
Yeah, sure. I'll share a couple. We've got, and these are actually featured on our website, and they're easy for me to pull up. But one is someone named Gloria, who is out of the LA area. She Gloria is kind of infamous at Cheddar Up just because she's just such a kind person. And she's a classic example of people who we serve, right? She is in her community being a volunteer on a number of different fronts. So she's a Girl Scout troop leader. She is a Girl Scout service unit leader, which is sort of someone who manages lots of Girl Scout troops. And then she's also on her high school PTA. And then she also helps her daughter's high school cheer and dance team. And so she just kind of dipped her toe in. I think she was introduced originally through a partnership we have with the Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles, as it related to Girl Scouts. And she just sort of, she got it right away, right? She started using it for her troop, very quickly started using it for her service unit, and then brought it over to her high school PTA and then her dance team. And she is just, she's not only is she a Cheddar Up pro, but she just, sees the value of moving these things online. She's sort of seen firsthand how, you know, selling tickets to a Broadway show for her troupe, like the process of doing that prior to using Cheddar Up on paper. And then once she moved it online, like selling out this event in like minutes. So just a stark difference in terms of success, in terms of dollars collected. She's collected well over $300,000 on the platform, and she's just a total rock star. Someone, sort of totally different, because again, we serve so many different types of users. Is a law society that has a bunch of different clubs out of Canada. And they, the treasurer there started using Cheddar Up. Actually, I think he's the VP of finance, started using Cheddar Up a few years ago. And, he was sort of tasked with finances for like 70 different clubs. And he found Cheddar Up and similarly kind of dove all in, and similarly just saw a sort of staggering uptick in participation, in dollars collected, in the ability to have oversight over these funds and transactions and withdrawals to the bank, and just feeling really good about the security of where money was going and the ins and outs. And I think that club, like, they've kind of wrote it into their bylaws that nothing other than Cheddar Up can be used. So they're big advocates just because of the success that they've had. And that's really typical. I mean, it is really typical. Usually we say, we go to a lot of different state PTA events as part of our marketing endeavors. And, we tell the PTAs, like, just dip your toe in, just create a free account, create a page for whatever it is you've got coming up. If you're still using a paper form, sit it right next to your computer, recreate, what it is you need to collect, and just try it. And it just fans out very quickly after that, because they collect more. It was easy, great oversight, community loved it. And then they just start to kind of fan out in terms of, how else can we use it? What else can we move online, kind of thing.
Awesome. You mentioned in the upcoming future, there's going to be a ticketing feature. I'm curious to know if there's anything you can share. What else is going to be in the short-term future, or where else you'd like to see Cheddar Up go?
Yeah. So we recently launched signups, just as an FYI. I give that little plug. So if you like sign up forms, right? Like volunteer schedules, who's going to bring the snacks. So that's a newer feature we launched in spring, which is going like gangbusters. People are loving it. We are launching ticketing, like I mentioned, in another month, probably less than that. We've got something that I'm personally so excited about, which is called, may sound like super simple and like, why don't you have this yet? Which honestly is kind of the case. It's a template center. So it's just a place where you can go to see example collection pages, and you can very quickly make them your own. And I'm excited about this for a couple of things. One, it gets people further down the path faster. But two, it's just going to be a hotbed of brilliant ideas for other communities to try. We sit in a really cool spot in that we see all types of communities all over North America doing all kinds of cool things. And I'm not very involved in my PTA, to be honest, because I'm too busy for it. But if I was, I would be like, okay, I've got like millions of ideas that I can just bring to my community. So now we're going to expose those. And I think it's just going to be a really great idea center for, fundraisers, events, all kinds of things for our users. And it also, we're going to allow, some of our power users to highlight things that they've created, which is really fun. Some of these people are just amazing and doing amazing things. So why not bubble them up for other people? So yeah, templates, ticketing. I mentioned integrations earlier. Those are live, but we don't have a page really showcasing those. That's going to be available before long. And then, yeah, so something else we're just working on more is partnerships. So as we roll into 2024, partnerships is going to be something we're really focused on. We have a lot of partnerships right now with Girl Scout councils, but we're going to be kind of expanding that effort. And then in 2024 as well, we're launching a gift card center, so you can use Cheddar Up for a group gift which so many people do already. And then instead of withdrawing that and going and buying your gift card, you can roll it into a gift card and send that gift card to whoever you're gifting almost immediately. So that's coming around the bend as well.
That's like a longer list than I expected, actually. It's quite
I
impressive.
know. I'm telling you, this was 2023 was a big year of building for us. There were like a handful of really big things that we wanted to get done, and we're gonna finish our goals. So we're super excited. So then we just got a few stragglers for next year, and then we get to refine and do all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, it sounds great. I really hope you have much continued success in the future. I'm curious, and then can you share with people how they can reach you or get in touch with you or learn more about Cheddar Up?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you kind of just want to track us, just search Cheddar Up on Instagram or Facebook. We're always posting, what we're up to. But otherwise, just go to cheddarup.com. Really simple, cheddarup.com. Check it out. We've got all kinds of beautiful pages that kind of explain what we do and who we are. I've got some demos out there. And there's truly no harm in just creating an account and playing around and creating a page and seeing if it kind of checks the box for what you're looking for.
Awesome, Nichole. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Alex. This was really fun.
All right, that's it for today. I'm Alexander Lapa, and I hope you join me again in the next Agents of Nonprofit.